Greetings, YouTube. My name is KarQ. The 132 Quick Play Hacked event has come out today, and I played it for 6 straight hours with many iterations and versions of the game with the community. And I'm here to inform you of my opinion, or maybe form your opinion for you, because people don't want to think and they don't know what to think of it, and they're going to use my opinion as their opinion. If you don't know what this is, right now, this is overtaken 5v5 in the game for quick play specifically. You cannot play. You can play 5v5 competitive, but you cannot play 5v5 unranked quick play right now. It is replaced with 132, where it is 6v6 right now, where you have to queue as 1 tank, 3 DPS and support, but the only condition is that if you queue DPS, you have the option to swap to a tank at any point in the game. The balance is tuned to the current open queue 6v6 format, which does exist, and there are a lot of pros and cons to it. My quick opinion of it, before I elaborate on the pros and cons, what I liked and didn't like of it, was that I think it's fine and it's decent, but I actually enjoy the open queue format more right now, as long as people are willing to listen. And I did play a lot of open queue competitive 6v6, and usually people play 2-2-2 there. If I ever get a 2-2-2 game, things are fantastic and I'm having a great time. The 132s, every time I played it, I've won a few of them, but I definitely lost a majority of the 132s, especially when the enemy team also ran a 2-2-2. When I was playing a 132 and the enemy team was on 132 as well, we did win. But yeah, the short is that it feels like 132 definitely loses. And if you're that one tank, I think I played Queen and I played decently well, but I played it into like a Zenyatta, Roadhog, and I was not having a good time. Like, I did okay on paper, the stats wise, but we just had like no space and presence, despite me, like, you know, racking up like maybe a lot of elims and a lot of stuff on the damage, or on the, you know, the stat sheet. I just wasn't impactful enough, unfortunately, when I played my one solo Queen tank into like their Roadhog, Winston, Zenyatta, and whatever. The point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of pros and cons to this versus the open queue format, and I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. I actually made a nice little quick image here of why they were choosing to do this. Now, somebody in the YouTube chat earlier was just like, why would they do a test for the 6v6 when you know, like, what's the point of testing it? Why do they need data to see if it works? We know it works. Well, here's the thing. It works, it's fun, but there's always like a problem that arises with the format. So let's talk about the old format really quick. Original 2-2-2, it's like, why do we not go back to 2-2-2 off the rip with 2 tanks? It's because of queue times. You see this image right here, right down the middle? It's red for the queue times. 2-2-2 is balanced, the most balanced. It is very fun, but the queue times were atrocious. If we play this current mode and you are playing into a 1-3-2, it's not balanced in the sense you just feel like you're playing an uphill battle. You're probably going to lose. 1-3-2 arguably is not that fun, but the queue times are drastically better, right? That's the left column over here. 2-2-2 is like that. And then with current open queue format is fun. The queue times are great, which is the one I play right now. But the balance is a little wacky, especially if you queue into, you know, 5 support mains on the team, or like 5 DPS players, and you're forced to like flex a little bit, and like the balance will be a little off because people's ranks are not calibrated to all the other roles. It's certainly very real to have someone who could be a master's level support, but like a gold level DPS, because they just don't touch the role at all. That's like this quick little graphic. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Let's backtrack a little bit on why we are not back at the original 2-2-2 and why we're doing all these like hoops to try this whole mode out. The whole point of 1-3-2 right now is for queue times. That's it. It's to solve the problem. The queue times were a problem, whether you want to believe it or not. If you played Overwatch 1, like, some people now are willing to like sacrifice that and be like, we need to go back to old role queue 2-2-2. Like, guys, you don't remember it right now, but non-stop social media would always post 20, 30, 40, 1-hour queues for DPS, especially in the high ranks. It's arguably still even long right now in 5v5 role queue. Some people are getting long ass queues in the highest ranks. Queue times are a problem. People will complain about it. So if you missed it in the old KarQ's video on this channel, there was actually a blog article released in July 2024, a long time ago, with 5v5 and 6v6, and they pretty much explained a lot of the reasons why they shifted, but it truly was queue times. In Overwatch 6v6, when role queue came out, damage queue times on average were 7.6. And if you average this out for all, like, it's going to be higher in Grandmaster Champion, but like on average, that high is already kind of insane. And at that, up to that point in Overwatch 2's 5v5 lifetime, it was only 2.9 minutes on average, which solved it. For the supports, it was 2.8, and Overwatch 2 apparently it has a super short queue times. I mean, right now, anecdotally, when I queue support, it's decently long. It's 5 to 10 minutes at the rank I play at. But like, that's what the data suggested at the time when they swapped the 5v5, and then for tanks, it's still even faster. slightly, but tank was always going to be the bottleneck. And I'm going to repeat this one more time. The biggest difference between Overwatch 2 queue times is the ratio of players queuing for each roles. We hear players speculate that long queue times are a result of not enough players playing Overwatch. That isn't the case, but instead that it's relative to the other roles. Players in general queue tank less, which leads to longer wait times for all people while we wait for a second tank basically to free up to find a proper match. So in practice, the actual ratio of players queuing for tank, damage, and support is much closer to the current 1-2-2 format and 5v5 in the previous 2-2-2 format. And as a result, the 5v5 role queue format better mirrors actual player interest in each role, and making the switch resulted in shorter queue times. So that's like what they said here. Now, maybe things have changed a little bit. So again, to reiterate why they're doing the 1-3-2, damage, probably they don't actually give us data on the actual distribution of player behavior and what they like queuing, but I would assume majority of players in Overwatch are damage players and probably support, to be honest with you, at least the ones that queue competitive specifically. So the fact that you have to find 3 to fill a game, you still only need 1 tank to fill this lobby, actually, you know, makes the queue times pretty decent. So now let me list out some of the pros and cons a little bit more. So when we have 6v6 in general over 5v5, chaos, it's a little chaotic, but chaotic can be fun because you get more people to shoot at, more dopamine hits, more sounds. It's always action, high APM. If you have ADHD, Overwatch is perfect for you. All the ADHDers playing this game, you understand what I'm saying? It's just like constant stimulus that's going on, and it can be very high, especially if you combo stuff. So that's a really great thing about 6v6. I had a massive dopamine hit earlier just playing on run in that mode. Just like, you know, dashing through 5 people, blazing, dancing through a bunch, and then flying into the skies, Zarya grabs, whatever. You just, all these big hits is a huge rush. And it's one of the reasons why people fell in love with Overwatch 1 6v6 to begin with. Now, in the 2-2-2 format, I just wrote these notes out. 2-2 felt great. It's better. This mode gives you, one of the things this current experiment also solves is no triple support. So GOATS was a complaint back in the day. And GOATS, as much as people want to remember it as the 3 tank problem, it was actually more defined by playing triple supports more than anything at that time. GOATS was originally 3 tank, 3 support, like Ryan, Zarya, Diva, I don't know, it was like Moira, Zen, Lucio, but it kept evolving, and sometimes you would have 2 tanks and like a Mei, or 2 tanks and a Sombra. I remember the 2 tanks, Mei, and 3 supports was called Snoats. Iterations and variations of GOATS were always based on 3 supports. So this 1-3-2 experiment limits you to only 1-3-2 and 2-2-2. You cannot play triple support. If you play the open queue ranked format, you can still opt for triple support. But yeah, so that's like another one of the pros. So you will not run into like too much healing creep. They've also nerfed healing a little decent bit, especially with the whole like global reduction. So even if you run triple support right now in current open queue, it honestly isn't that bad. I won't lie. It's a decent comp, but it still can lose. And there's been a lot of other heroes that have come out in the time that at that time. Brig was a big part of it as well. Actually, I think I misremembered. It was Brig. Brig was a big problem with her stun and how tanky she was at the time with the rally. And a big pro of 2-2-2, of course, is that people are happier with like their roles because it's a bit more balanced. Like supports actually want to play support, tanks want to play tanks, and DPS want to play DPSs. Now the cons of 6v6 versus 5v5 a little bit is that sometimes I said chaos is good, can be very high highs, but it can be like a little much for some people. It can be a little messy to track if you're not used to it. It'll get a little easier over time, but I'm gonna be honest, in all my matches today, I did not alt track a single time. I mean, I was also playing quick play. I'm not really try-harding, but it can be quite a bit when you have to keep track of an extra player on both sides. There's more visual clutter. There's a nice image meme from the Overwatch League where we had like double shield Moira alts, double sim walls on one screen, and people were like, what the hell are we looking at? Visual clutter is one of the cons of 6v6 versus 5v5. And like, it is a little bit more chaotic. It is a little bit more hectic. Sometimes, like in a perfect world, I would actually want both modes to exist because 5v5 is a bit more chill and 6v6 is a bit more chaotic. And like, I can be in the mood for either depending on the night. Another con of 6v6 is that supports do have to heal bot a bit more. I am a support main. It does feel like if you are playing with the 2-2-2, I definitely don't have as much agency to like go on an off angle and do some more like playmaking stuff. If I look away from my tanks right now, they are also tuned to the less HP, and the people who have only been playing 5v5 are not taking cover as much because they're so used to being the Giga tank with so much HP that they just fall over if they're not careful. And then another con of this 1-3-2 specifically is that one tank, I think I mentioned earlier, one tank is really tough to play sometimes because, yeah, again, if you're playing into a hard matchup, like the ones that can't hold their own, like I was playing Queen into those, like the Hog and stuff, it was not fun. But like the ones that can hold their own are probably like Mauga, maybe Ball for sure. Ball has like some of the most HP in the 6v6 format, so it's acceptable. Overall, I would rate this like an 7.5 out of 10. I'm curious to see what the new dynamic queue will be like afterwards, where they prioritize 222, but then 132 ends up being a release valve where, like, you know, you have the option to go to it, which is probably the better queue. That's the experiment coming in 2 more weeks. Oh, I missed one more thing here. The way this queue works is that, like, if you're queuing damage, or sorry, if you want a tank buddy guaranteed and you're a tank player, you should queue damage so that you can just flex to it and you're guaranteed two tanks at minimum. If you just queue tank, there's a chance you actually run into 3 authentic DPS players that don't want to flex or swap, so then you're stuck playing 132. And I've already said playing 132 is a little bit of an uphill battle, especially because it's you don't get the 5v5 HP pool. You are playing at like an inherent disadvantage. Someone like a Zarya solo tank, you only get 1 bubble for yourself instead of having the choice to have 2, because it's tuned to the 6v6 balance where you have to have a team bubble and a self bubble only. And then the other issue with 132 being like the main format in that sense is that the tank and DPS like balance will be a little bit off, because your role rank as damage and tank are now tied together, because you have the option to go both. Supports will be fine because they're just queuing that one role, but because damage can flex into both of them, your rank is literally tied to both. And like you could be like a master's level damage player and like a, I don't know, platinum tank, and like both your other, you queue damage, but you had the idea of swapping the tank to be 222, but like somebody else did it and now you're stuck on damage and you're like, you know, a way lower rank. Or did I mix it up? Whatever, you get the point I'm trying to make, right? So there's definitely pros and cons. Like every sort of like comp you look at here, whether it's 132, 222, or the current open queue format, there's pros and cons to all of them. It's just a matter of which problem matters more to you. Like you cannot please everybody with this. You cannot do it, because when you pick one, then it introduces another set of problems that it's gonna have to tackle on its own. So pick your poison is another takeaway point here. But in any case, I rate it decent. It's definitely like pretty fun today, but I'm more curious to have the dynamic. Anytime we got 222 against both teams, I had a great time. And whenever I play, you know, competitive open queue, I usually play 222, so that's always a fun time. And that is a perfect world. If we can have 222 6v6, but like shorter queue times, I'm here for it. And I do want to keep 5v5 as well, because I like to chill sometimes without all the chaos. So I bring the question and discussion to you guys in the comments as well on like your thoughts on playing it today. I assume most people today enjoyed it, especially when they were able to get into the 222 for sure. And if they were an Overwatch 1 player. Anybody who only started in Overwatch 2 and only played 5v5 when they played it, some of them enjoyed it for sure, but I think some people in chat earlier were saying it was just a little hectic to be forced to play 6v6, and they didn't like it and they wished it wasn't here for the weekend. But I do think I will also like dynamic queue, like you said as well, especially later on, where it's kind of like a prioritized 222 with a release valve of 132 if you can't find a match in a reasonable time. That's what they said. And that starts in 2 weeks, 2 weekends from now. The problem, one of the problems that arises if all the tank players start queuing DPS to get 222, then it kind of brings back the queue problem, at least to a certain degree. I won't know exactly what it'll translate to. That's a decent point if all the tank players are thinking the same way in that alignment. Anyways, that's some quick thoughts on today's mode. And yeah, what do you guys think?